Welcome, everyone, to the Deep Dive. We're kicking off something really special today, a new series. We're going to be journeying into the Holy Quran, chapter by chapter, surah by surah.
Yeah, looking for that guidance, for how we live our lives now and for success in the hereafter.
Exactly. And where better to start than Surah Al-Baqarah? It's the second chapter, the longest, and truly foundational.
Absolutely. Even the name, the cow, hints at just how much depth is there.
It really does. So for this first deep dive, we're zeroing in on the very beginning, the first 20 verses.
And these verses are incredibly important. They really set the scene, laying out how different people engage with faith itself.
It's like an initial map, isn't it?
Yeah.
It categorizes people into, well, three main groups based on their belief, their conviction, and how they act on it.
Precisely. And our mission today, if you like, is to really understand these categories. Who are they? What characteristics does the Quran give them? What can you take away from this initial framework?
Okay, let's dive in. Verses 1 to 5. These introduce the first group, Al-Muttaqīn, the believers, the God-conscious. It starts with Alif Lam Mim, these mysterious letters. What's the significance there?
Right. The muqatta'at, or disjointed letters, they appear at the start of several surahs. And while the ultimate meaning is with Allah alone, scholars often explain them as highlighting the Qur'an's miraculous nature.
How so?
Well, think about it. The Qur'an is made of these very same Arabic letters that everyone knew and used, letters like Alif, Lam, Mim. Yet the message itself, its eloquence, its guidance, it's inimitable, beyond human capacity.
I see. It's like saying, look, these are just letters you know, but what they form is divine. Draws attention to the miracle using the familiar.
Exactly. It sets the stage for what follows.
Which brings us to verse 2. This is the book about which there is no doubt, a guidance for those conscious of Allah, Muttaqīn. Powerful statement.
Very powerful. First, that absolute certainty, no doubt. It establishes the Qur'an's authority right away. But then, crucially, it says who it's guidance for.
The Muttaqīn, those conscious of Allah.
Yes. Taqwa, that consciousness or awareness of God, is key. Scholars like Ibn Kathir explain the Muttaqīn as those who actively protect themselves from displeasing Allah.
So like avoiding shirk, associating partners with God, and striving to follow his commands.
Precisely. Avoiding major sins, obeying commands. It means the Qur'an's guidance really resonates, really lands with those who approach it with that sincere intention, that taqwa.
Okay, that makes sense. So taqwa isn't passive, it's an active striving.
Right.
What does that look like in practice? Verses 3 to 5 seem to detail their characteristics. First up, belief in the unseen, the gaib.
Right. Belief in the gaib. This means faith in realities beyond our immediate senses.
Like what specifically?
Things like angels, the day of judgment, paradise, hell, divine decree, Qadar, Allah's knowledge and plan. It's accepting these truths revealed by Allah.
And this belief then influences how they live.
Absolutely. Believing in accountability, for instance, naturally makes you more mindful of your actions in the here and now.
Got it. Okay, what's the next characteristic?
Establishing prayer, Allah.
And that's more than just the physical act.
Much more. It's performing the 5 daily prayers regularly, sincerely, with focus and mindfulness. It's that direct line, that conversation with Allah, consistently maintained, a pillar of faith.
A constant connection throughout the day makes sense. And then
spending from what Allah has provided.
Charity, basically.
Yes, both the required charity, zakat, and voluntary giving. Sharing the blessings Allah has given, wealth, time, knowledge, whatever it might be. It shows they recognize everything is ultimately from Him.
A practical outflow of gratitude and awareness.
Exactly, and it builds compassion in the community.
The verses also mention belief in previous revelations. Why is that included?
That's crucial. It means accepting the books revealed before the Qur'an, like the Torah and the Gospel, and honoring the messengers who brought them.
So acknowledging the continuity of God's message.
Yes. It shows the core message, the oneness of God. Tawhid has always been there. It fosters respect for all of God's prophets.
Okay. And the final characteristic listed for the Muttaqīn.
Certainty in the hereafter. Akhira.
A firm belief in life after death and judgment.
Yes, unshakable belief in accountability, in paradise and hell. This certainty profoundly shapes their priorities. Why strive for good? Why avoid evil? Because you know this life isn't the end. It gives you that eternal perspective.
Right. It puts worldly life in its proper context. So these 5 verses paint a picture of the Muttaqīn as having this deep inner faith, Consistent worship, generosity, respect for past revelations, and a focus on the hereafter.
Exactly. It's holistic. Faith engaging the heart, mind, and actions, all driven by that consciousness of Allah, taqwa.
Okay, then the tone shifts. Verses 6 and 7 introduce the opposite group, the disbelievers, the Kuffār.
Yeah.
The language feels quite definitive here.
It does. Verse 6 says, "Indeed, those who disbelieve, it is all the same for them whether you warn them or do not warn them, they will not believe."
It sounds almost final.
Like
the verse is closed.
It's describing a specific state, those who have deliberately, consciously, and persistently rejected the truth after it became clear to them. It's not about someone simply unaware.
So their own choices led them to this point.
That's the understanding. Their repeated rejection has hardened their hearts to the point where warnings just don't penetrate anymore. It's a consequence, not an initial prevention by Allah.
And verse 7 expands on this state. Allah has set a seal upon their hearts and upon their hearing, and over their vision is a veil. That imagery is intense.
Very intense. The seal implies their hearts are now unreceptive, blocked off from faith. Again, seen as a consequence of their persistent denial.
So the seal isn't arbitrary, it's earned, in a sense.
It's a result of their choices. This spiritual barrier prevents understanding. Similarly, sealed hearing, veiled vision, it suggests an inability or perhaps an unwillingness to perceive truth even when it's right there.
A self-imposed blindness and deafness.
Leading to the stated consequence, a great punishment. The connection between their inner state and their ultimate outcome is clear.
A really sobering thought. Okay, so we have the believers and the disbelievers, but then the Quran spends quite a bit more time, verses 8 through 20, on a third group. The hypocrites, the Munāfiqūn.
Yes, and this is a complex category. Verse 8 introduces them. And of the people are some who say, "We believe in Allah in the last day," but they are not believers.
So right away, the defining trait is that disconnect between what they say outwardly and what they feel or don't feel inwardly. Deception.
Exactly. A facade of faith.
Verse 9 adds, "They think to deceive Allah and those who believe, but they deceive not except themselves and perceive it not." What's the key insight there?
It highlights the futility and self-destructive nature of their hypocrisy. They might think they're being clever, fooling people, but Allah knows their reality. Ultimately, they're only harming their own souls, even if they're blind to that fact. You can't fool the all-knowing.
Right, and verse 10 mentions a disease in their hearts. What kind of disease?
This disease is understood as a spiritual sickness, doubt, insincerity, maybe envy, a lack of real conviction.
And it gets worse.
Yes. The verse says, "So Allah has increased their disease, and for them is a painful punishment because they habitually used to lie." Their constant lying and duplicity actually feeds the disease, corrupting them further. It's a downward spiral.
Wow. Then verses 11 and 12 describe them causing corruption, but claiming to be reformers. That sounds very familiar even today.
It's timeless, isn't it? When it's said to them, "Don't cause corruption," they say, "We are only reformers." But the Quran states plainly, unquestionably, it is they who are the corruptors, but they perceive it not.
That lack of self-awareness again.
Twisting reality, rationalizing harm as good, spreading discord, undermining trust, whatever it might be, while convincing themselves they're helping. It's dangerous.
And they look down on sincere believers. Verse 13 touches on that.
Yes. When it said, "Believe as the people have believed," they say, "Should we believe as the foolish have believed?" They mock simple, sincere faith, calling it foolish.
But the verse turns it back on them.
Right back. Unquestionably, it is they who are the foolish, but they know it not. Their own arrogance and inner confusion is the real foolishness, but they're blind to it.
Then verses 14 and 15 describe their two-faced behavior.
Absolutely. When they meet those who believe, they say, "We believe." All smiles in agreement.
But when they're alone with their own kind,
They say, "Indeed, we are with you. We were only mockers." Total shift. Pure duplicity.
and Allah's response.
Allah mocks them and prolongs them in their transgression while they wander blindly. It's a kind of divine justice. He lets them continue down the path they've chosen, deepening their confusion, allowing their mockery to rebound on them.
Verse 16 uses the metaphor of a transaction, a bad trade.
Exactly. Those are the ones who have purchased error in exchange for guidance.
Layla error.
Willingly chose it, traded guidance away for it. So their transaction has brought no profit, nor were they guided. A complete loss. Spiritual bankruptcy stemming from their deliberate choice.
Okay, and then the Quran uses two powerful parables to really illustrate their state. First, the parable of the fire in verses 17 and 18.
This compares them to someone who kindles a fire. They get a brief moment of light, maybe they see a flicker of truth or guidance.
But then...
Allah took away their light and left them in darkness so they could not see. Because of their inner hypocrisy, that potential light is extinguished. They're left spiritually blind, unable to benefit from any guidance. It reflects that initial exposure to faith that they then rejected internally.
A very vivid image. And the second parable, verses 19 and 20, the storm.
Another powerful one. It pictures them caught in a massive storm, darkness, thunder, lightning, terrifying.
What do they do?
They put their fingers in their ears against the thunderclaps, fearful of death. And the lightning is so bright, it almost snatches away their sight.
So what does this represent?
It shows their reaction to the clear signs and warnings of the Qur'an, which can seem overwhelming or frightening, like thunder and lightning. They try to block it out, plug their ears, ignore the flashes of truth because it exposes their inner state.
They're afraid of the truth.
Afraid of being exposed, afraid of the consequences. They try to shut it out, but they remain lost in the darkness and storm of their own confusion and fear, constantly threatened by the reality they refuse to face.
These parables really drive home the inner turmoil and blindness of the hypocrites. And there's also a hadith that complements this description, right?
Yes, a very well-known hadith from the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. He said, "The signs of a hypocrite are 3. When he speaks, he lies. When he makes a promise, he breaks it. And when he is entrusted, he betrays the trust."
Found in Bukhari and Muslim, the most authentic collections.
Correct. And you can see how perfectly it aligns with the Quranic picture, the dishonesty, the unreliability, the fundamental lack of integrity. It gives concrete, everyday signs.
Lying, breaking promises, betraying trust. Very clear indicators. So wrapping up this first deep dive into Surah Al-Baqarah's opening, these 20 verses give us this foundational understanding of 3 paths, 3 relationships with faith.
That's right. You have the believers, the Muttaqīn, defined by sincere faith, conscious action, taqwa.
And the disbelievers, the Kuffār, those who actively and persistently reject the truth once it's clear.
And finally, the hypocrites, the Munāfiqūn, outwardly professing faith but hiding disbelief, caught in deception and inner conflict.
Understanding these categories, as laid out right at the start of this major surah, really invites self-reflection, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It encourages you, the listener, to look inward, to examine your own heart, your intentions, your actions. Are you striving towards the qualities of the Muttaqīn?
Towards that sincerity, that consistency between belief and action.
That's the goal. That genuine faith and righteous conduct which the Qur'an identifies as the path to true success.
A powerful reminder for all of us. Well, that brings us to the end of this first deep dive into the verses of the Holy Quran. Thank you so much for being with us on this exploration.
We really hope it's given you some valuable insights and, things to think about.
And we really encourage you to continue this journey with us. We'll be exploring more chapters, more surahs, seeking that wisdom and guidance.
Lots more to uncover.
So if you want to join us for future deep dives, seeking guidance for this life and success in the hereafter, please do subscribe.
We look forward to sharing more of these profound teachings with you.
Thanks again for listening.